Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Boss Lady Live. As usual, my name is Sandra Samuels, and I am the CEO of Totally Mail. And we have Boss Lady Live, where where we deal with, hold on one second, where we deal with issues. What is happening here? It's a good thing I'm not in the middle of my program. Okay, right. So sorry about that. Technical difficulties as usual. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see I have some early folks. That's great. Like and share with your friends. It's a very important topic. We are here to speak on domestic violence. And I know we have in our minds what the domestic violence is, but to speak to it more in depth and more intimately, we have Inspector Jacqueline Dillon, which will give us a very broad overview, or should I say, a deeper understanding of what domestic violence is and how we can work together to help each other to, I would like to say, get rid of domestic violence. I know I live in a real world, but I really would like to see a world void of domestic violence. So like and share with your friends. It's a very serious topic. As you know, this is a topic that has been in the media, and they said it's increasing during this period of COVID. So we'll hear from Inspector Dillon if that is true. And so we want to, and I want you to be very proactive in asking questions. Look here, these experts, it's very difficult to get them on the program, So I want you not to waste the opportunity to ask questions, because that's why we're here. We're here with a focus for a better Jamaica. Now, we're on 3 platforms each Monday night. We are on Sandra A. Samuels on Facebook. We are on Totally Mail Spa on Facebook as well. And on YouTube, we're on www.youtube.com/The Totally Mail. Please like and share, subscribe to our platform on YouTube, because there's a whole heap of information, because this is actually season 3. We have had 3 seasons, and each season has at least 13 programs. So you know how many programs have gone before. And all of these programs are geared towards educating you on a lot of the topics that are what we consider to be taboo. People don't want to talk about them, but it's really information that we need, not information that we want, information that we need. Because I am focused on a 2030 vision where Jamaica becomes the place where we want to live, where we want to work, and we want to raise our families. So good night, welcome, Inspector Jacqueline Dillon. It is my pleasure to have you. I want to publicly thank Dennis Brooks for organizing this for me, because it really is important for us to speak to the police. Many people see the police as our enemies, but police is really a friend. And we want to shed a positive light on the police tonight. And we want for the police to share with us, and for us to share with the police. Now, let me just give you an idea of who we have with us tonight. We have Inspector from the JDF. We have Inspector Jacqueline Dillon. She's a community safety and security coordinator for Area 5. Now, for those of us who don't know what Area 5 covers, Area 5 consists of the parishes of St. Catherine, St. Thomas, and a part of St. Andrew. She is involved with various training in domestic violence prevention and also suicide prevention. She's also the coordinator for the Domestic Violence Intervention Program. Welcome, Inspector Dillon.
Thank you for having me. Good night, viewers, listeners. Thanks again for having me on this program. I hope at the end of the program that we have a lot of takeaways on how we can better deal with domestic violence issues and what our roles as individuals within society and what are the expectations or what is it that you should expect of the police.
Right. Thank you so much for that. So let us kick off in just telling us a little bit about what your job entails at this time.
So, all right, as the Community Safety and Security Coordinator for Area 5, I do a number of things. I interact with school communities on domestic violence issues, community safety issues, so around crime prevention issues. And that's basically what community safety does, is to educate communities on how they can better protect themselves and how they work with the police to protect themselves and how together using the various laws available to assist in crime prevention. And notice I didn't say reaction or investigation, but
Right,
prevention of a crime within communities.
right. And just let us, all right. So we have our idea of what domestic violence is. Give us a little overview as to what is domestic violence.
All right, so in the broad sense, domestic violence really entails family violence and intimate partner violence. It's an abuse. It's where an individual gains power and control to punish another person who is dependent on them. So, for example, within the family setting, you will have family violence can arise out of a number of issues. It can be dispute over property. It can be anything that affects family. It can be simple beating of a child. It can be food. You know, there are these disagreements over food. But in truth and in fact, it's an abuse. It is where I am the dominant person within that household. And so because I am the dominant person, I use that dominance to control others. And you find that in intimate partner, a lot of us focus a lot on intimate partner violence because it is out there. But right across Jamaica, you find that there are more instances or incidents of family violence. So it's violence against mother and father, brother and sister. There are more of that than partner violence, intimate partner violence. But the numbers are huge, the numbers are high. And so it is concerning because everywhere you have an abuse that can lead to violence, you count that violence as another death.
Right. It, in terms of, I know most times you speak on domestic violence, people don't think about men. Men are a major part, or they think about men as the abuser,
Mhm.
right? And so we want to let everyone know that it's a broad brush. It's not just women alone that are abused. You have men and boys, women and girls, and small children that are suffering abuse. So it is, we want to look at it holistically.
You
Just,
see, I always tell the persons who I speak to that domestic violence is not gender bias. So it's not violence against women. It is violence against persons. So men,
person.
women, children, boys, girls. It's not gender bias. Because as I said before, when you talk about domestic violence, you're talking about family violence, family violence surrounding family in home situation. And so it's no respecter of gender. So
Right.
it could be anybody. One of the issues though is that we find that violence against women and girls tend to take center stage, um, rather than violence against men and boys. You'll hear violence against boys being talked about because they are children. But when you talk about adults, a lot of focus is really on women. When in truth, and in fact, we have had cases of men who reported domestic violence issues or who are being abused by women. And I tell you, the women can be dangerous when they are the
When they're
abusers.
ready. When they're ready. Yes. All right. So what would you say in your experience causes the highest rate of domestic violence?
There is no one situation. A number of them have arisen out of properties, family properties. A number
That's
of them has arisen out of food, simple things as food. I cook a pot and a family member come in and say, "Hear me, give me two dumplings." And you decide it's only one you're supposed to get, and I say, "I want two. I'm not going to take one." And that end up with somebody being seriously injured or dies. So
Are
a
you
simple thing as
serious?
that. I am very serious. Simple thing as family members from long time have their disagreements, and the two of them go to a bar and drink and writing at the rum thing. They remember that they actually have these issues, and these issues start to come out, and the other one become intolerant of the other one, and you'll have one being seriously injured or dies. So you have these situations, even over phone card, simple thing as a phone card. So it goes back to how we deal with family issues and how we get help at an early stage, and not just laugh off simple incidents. So I've not spoken about intimate partner because that's a whole different ball game. But when you talk about family violence, there are a number of issues within the home where family members have not learned to deal with these issues, and so they stay and they fester.
Right.
That's
Would
how
you say
domestic violence works.
would you say that there's a correlation with level of education, background, upbringing, being abused as children themselves? Are there any connections? Give us a little insight
There
on
are, whenever we're talking about domestic violence, we look at how socialization affects person, and in so doing, remember, let me start. Domestic violence or abuse is a learned behavior. It's
that.
not
Right.
something that you're born with, it's something that you learn. So, for example, studies have shown over time that for children who are victims of violence within the home are
Yes.
more likely to become perpetrators of violence. He didn't say that they must. He said they are at a greater risk of becoming violent as an adult.
Right.
A young man, and I'm gonna give you a live example. We have some summer programs that we run, and I remember a young man was talking to this young girl they met at camp, and he likes her, but according to him, in his household, his father is a dominant person, and every time his mother does not respond, what his father does is slap her around. So he did the same thing. And so we took him into this room just to question
What
him
age group
as
are
to,
we talking about?
if you like this young lady, why are you treating her this way? He said,
What
Miss,
age group are we talking about?
15,
Wow.
15, because the group that we take are between 12 and 17. We don't take adults.
Okay.
So, and they must be in school. And so these are some of the issues that comes out of the home. I grew up understanding as a girl that in order to prove love, I must be beaten. And so it's okay for me. So
How do we,
socialization have a lot to
yes.
do with some of the things that we see playing out in the household.
How do you break the cycle if you don't? Well, the mother has been beaten, so she's not doing anything to correct the daughter. The daughter is not talking. Daughter or son, for that matter, is not talking. But then sometimes it falls on the school teacher who realizes that there's some level of aggression at school. Am I correct?
Yes, and sometimes the school teacher themselves have their own issue, and some of these issues just trigger some of the things that they have to deal with in their own lives. It right across Jamaica, it doesn't matter what profession you're in. There are a number of persons, male or female, who throughout their lifetimes have been victims of abuse. And so they themselves have not gone through a process of counseling, because when you talk about domestic violence, it is synonymous with counseling. You can't leave that out. It's not mediation. You don't mediate against power and control. If I
Right,
control it, there's no way you can mediate against it unless you're going to tell me to lay down and play dead.
right,
So it's about people taking responsibility for their own action, about persons getting help through counseling and working through these issues. And you'll be surprised at how some of these issues are and how people have lived with some of the issues as teenagers or as children right up into adulthood and never got any help, and then have to deal with, imagine me being a victim of abuse and having to deal with the same issues in my job, what my reaction would be.
right,
Because if I don't know any better, then you can't expect me to do any better.
right. So intervention. How how let's say for argument's sake, guidance counselor noticed it at school. What powers does she have to assist that student? Does she take it to the police? Does she have to deal with it or does she handle it through counseling? How does that work? Give us an idea of how that works.
All right, so let us start from top. Let's start from top. The law under the Domestic Violence Act of 1996 is
Yes.
what govern incidents of domestic violence and how you treat with it outside of another law being broken. So, for example, if there is no injury to person, so there's no case of assault, there is no malicious destruction of property, there's no sexual assault, but there is threat. There is a procedure by law as to what should happen. There are some persons on the Domestic Violence Act who are referred to, I'm going to use responsible person as a term. That's not necessarily the term. But those persons have the authority to act on behalf of. So a child who is in school and the guidance counselor would have noticed some things, have the authority to act on behalf of that child. Your parent or guardian. It can be a neighbor witnessing an abuse of a child. That neighbor can act by referring the matter to the relevant agencies, say the police or the Child Development and Family Services Agency. So there are persons, there are, for example, again, there is an old lady who is dependent on her son who is abusing her, and the neighbor is aware. The neighbor can act on behalf of that old person.
Oh, we can.
Oh, yes,
Your neighbors can step in.
of course.
But then there is that I'm afraid for my life kind of thing.
All right. And let me say this now. A lot of us do not interfere in domestic violence situation because one, we believe that it's a private matter and it must be dealt with within the four walls of persons' homes. And two, we have this mentality of being secretive. Whatever happened in my home, stay in my home. I don't business as long as it doesn't affect me. We are not saying to people that you are to stick your neck out there. We're saying to you that if you are aware of a child being abused or a family member being abused, and based on what you see, there's likely to be further violence. Pick up the phone. You don't have to tell the police who you are. Pick up the phone and direct the police to where the help needs to go. And the other thing is, a lot of persons don't understand that when we talk about domestic violence intervention, it's not necessarily to arrest, it's to intervene to prevent further violence or to prevent death. That is why we intervene early. The problem is, though, oftentimes we cannot intervene to prevent because people only talk when somebody dies or is serious.
All right. I'm witnessing my neighbor getting a beating. She's an adult. I call the police. But the police go over there and she's not stating that she's being abused. Nothing can be done, right? The police come and the police will have to leave. Because if she's not pressing charges, she's not saying that something is happening, although the neighbor has witnessed and said, look, this lady get beaten at least 3 times a week. If over there beating her right now, the police comes. What happens if the lady does not say she's being abused?
The thing is, let me explain something. There are 3 things that we all need to understand: love, fear, and hope. Those 3 dynamics of domestic violence and abuse is oftentimes what prevents a victim from reporting, I love him or her, or I love her. Right? She was never like this, or he was never like this. It's just the stress of time. It's just COVID. If I report him or her to the police, what's going to happen to me? I don't have anywhere else to go.
Or my children, because
I can't go back home. Or my children. And let me tell you something. Abusers are very manipulative. Manipulation is one of their key tools they use to exercise power and control. And that is why it is important for persons to understand and know the signs. So again, going back to your neighbor. So you call the neighbor because you are aware that your neighbor has been beaten 3 times for the week. But when the police come, the neighbor is saying, I do not wish to press charges, or I do not want to say anything. A lot of times you get that out of victim. You know why? The abuser is standing right there and they are fearful.
So does the police take the person away?
And so the police don't leave it like that. Yes, the police don't leave it like that. Once the police visit a scene, say for example, the person didn't come to the station, but the police got a call and had to go into a community. It is the duty and responsibility of that police officer to satisfy himself that that victim is in no further danger. And so taking the person aside to speak to them about the issues of domestic violence, because you can't force somebody to give you a statement. What you can do is direct them to where they can get help. What you can do is tell them what the law says. Because I can say to a victim right there and then, without going any further, is to say to the victim, listen, if you are in fear of your life, you need to seek redress through the court. Go and get a protection order. And when I go back to my station, I'm going to write that that's what I told the victim. Because the victim indicated that they do not wish. As a matter of fact, we say to our police officers, get the victim to the station where they are, somewhere where they can talk to you. Let them write it and say, I do not wish to take the matter to court, and they sign to that. And we have had victims who are fearful who have been cooperating like that. A lot of instances, the matters are not brought to the court, but we say to them in the form of prosecution that way.
Right.
But we say to them, go and get a protection order. And oftentimes they comply with getting a protection order.
Yes. A protection order. You know, Jamaica, or we will say, Jamaica, a protection order don't really mean nothing. Because if a man out to get you, he might go get you. How does a protection order protect us from being killed? Or for him to set up a friend to kill us? Him or her? Let us talk about the person instead of gender, as we said earlier. Him or her. How do we save ourselves? Because
Saving
if
us.
determined that he's going to kill us. Because most times, I mean, when you hear the reports, many times you hear that him they tell her say, or she did tell him say, she going to kill him, or him going to kill her. And it eventually happens. But what happens in between?
All right,
Is he
so let me
warned when someone gets a restraining order? Is he warned? Is he what if he violates that restraining order one time? What happens?
All right, so when the court grants a protection order to a victim, it would mean that the victim would have satisfied the court that my life is in danger and I need something to protect me.
Yes.
If a person is adamant that they're going to take your life, I don't want to be callous in what I'm going to say, but it's just like a criminal who decide that he's going to thief.
But we need for you to be real. We want you to tell us the real brass tacks. We want you to lay it out raw and natural so we understand what needs to be done, Inspector.
All right, so let me
play with it because this is your life.
Let me start from the very beginning. When you are involved in a domestic violence matter and the police get involved, or even if the police don't know about it yet, you have a responsibility as a victim. Count yourself that. Count it out that I may be seriously injured because of the relationship that I am in, male or female. Go to the police station and speak to the police officer. Police can't run out of station, man or woman. Police must take a report from you. And in taking a report, the police also is mandated by law to collect a statement from you. Remember now that I said, it doesn't necessarily mean prosecution.
Right.
What you're actually doing is just in case something happened to you, we know where to start looking.
Right.
So when you go to the station and you make the report and you have given that statement, the police going to hand you a receipt to say you have made a report at the station. If it is, that is a case of a threat mixed up in the domestic violence. It's not a violence yet, but an abuse. You don't reach the violence stage yet. It's the abuse part. The law said I must go and warn the person not to carry out their threat. If it is that when I get there, that perpetrator needs to be placed somewhere to cool down so that you can talk to him or her as a rational human being, the law also gives me that authority to do that. So I can carry him or her to the station, sit him down, I have a conversation with them about their own action. And I'm going to record that. Now, the next advice the police must give, I'm talking about now where it is intertwining threat. Right. If the threat is made in front of a police officer at the station, so you carry the perpetrator to the station, the victim is there, and the perpetrator is going to say in front of the police, I'm going to kill you. You think I'm going to kill you? the law says we can arrest and charge him right there and then because he commits an offense, on my view.
Okay.
Now, outside of that, the victim is now advised, based on the statement given, to go to the court and seek a protection order. If it is that the victim say to the police officer, I'm afraid to go on my own because this person have all kind of people all over, the police is legally bound to assist the victim to the court to go and get that protection order.
Yes.
Once the protection order is granted by the court, that protection order is taken back to the police to be served on the perpetrator or the abuser.
But Inspector, where you live, how that going to work out? Somebody have to move out.
The court, apart from a protection order, the court can also grant what we call an occupation order or a combination of both. So just the other day, we had a case where a young lady was granted both a protection order and an occupation order. And here's what it says. It says that the abuser must not be seen within a particular distance of the complainant and must not reside in the same household or in the same community. So when the police state that and serve it on the abuser and read out what the court says, the abuser must move out because that is the instruction of the court. Now, if there is a breach of the protection of or occupation order, remember now the police would know that on their own. It now requires the victim to come back to the police to say, look here, I have a protection order against this person. But this morning I wake up and I see them at my gate. I see the person at my gate.
Right.
And the protection order says that he's not to be here or she's not to be here. Then the police now will take the protection order, look at it, and then commence an investigation, collect a statement from the victim, and arrest and charge the abuser for breaches of the protection and or occupation order and take them forthwith before a judge.
But
and we have to do that within 48 hours.
But Inspector, so let me be the devil's advocate now. You know when you tell a man to move out of him own a house, him lose it. And also what I want to ask you now, suppose it's a situation, let's say for argument's sake, COVID pressure. But no money now run. Don't have no money to go nowhere else. So everybody money tight all around. Cause most times I'm sure you have fight. It have something to do with money, right?
Yeah.
Money or other person involved into the situation. If it's man and woman story. Somebody is going to lose their mind about you telling me to move out of my house. So that is even going to increase the level of fear or the level of violence that this person's even speaking about now when you tell him now to leave out of his house. And the children are there, the children are in the middle. What happens at that stage?
And this is why domestic violence issues are so dangerous. Yes. Because we have had cases where the court in looking at the occupation order, look at all the setting of the house. So the police will go to the premises and look at if both of them can live within the same premises without coming in close proximity to each other.
Yes.
And so we have had instances where the court determined that one must live on one side and one live on the other side, or one live upstairs and one live downstairs as long as they have separate entrances and exit. We have had that. But many of times, depending on the violence or the level of violence within that relationship, the court is going to order one of them to go.
To move out.
One of them will have to move out.
Well, I suppose it may not be convenient for a woman if she's the person taking care of the children to move out.
It's
It's
a
such
difficult
a treated.
it's a difficult situation, and persons would have said, I have worked all my life. This is all I have. And now the court is gonna say, I must move out and I have nowhere to go. We have had that. And so that is why the counseling and the
Right,
intervention is critical, because this is where now you sit people down. I've had persons who say, look here, I don't have nowhere else to go. I am from the country, I don't have anywhere else to go. I can't go back to the country, right? And we have to be sitting down people to say to them, look at what is happening around you. Look at where your finances are. Look at whether or not, excuse me, you can go somewhere for your own safety. And so we always say to victims, always have what we call a security plan. Always have your getaway plan. When you get involved in a relationship, there's nothing that is guaranteed. Always have some security plan. If I have to leave this relationship, is there anywhere where I can go without my partner, especially if I have a violent partner? Is there anywhere I can go to seek shelter that this partner won't know? Because let's face it, Jamaica have no shelter. They don't have one. Apart from Women's Inc. and another one that is somewhere. There really aren't anything in place to deal with victims of domestic violence and abuse. And oftentimes we focus a lot on the victims and we try not to help the perpetrator when we should be helping both. And so there
right,
needs to be a balance,
right,
because this perpetrator or abuser of domestic violence may end up in another relationship and behave the same way.
right. Because
So we have
mentally,
to,
he has a
exactly,
problem mentally. So
exactly, and that is why the counseling is
is that
important.
something that the court insists upon when someone um is a perpetrator of consistent domestic violence?
I can't speak definitively that that is done. And that is why the JCF took a proactive approach to the thing. That once we get a report, we start the intervention, whether or not there is investigation. There's
Right,
always the intervention that begins immediately. Because what we are trying to do, because let me tell you something, we have found where an instance where a young lady had to come to the police and we had to arrest our spouse. And we took both of them in counseling while the matter was still in the court.
right,
Because whatever we are doing had nothing to do with the court matter. We are doing the counseling to prevent further violence.
right,
And the court ended up giving the gentleman a suspended sentence. And we took him back to the office after that. He came back to see us. And he said it. He said, I'm sorry that I had to hit her and hit her so many times. And I now realize that what I did was wrong. And his next statement was, although I'm still upset with her, because she shouldn't come to court. And we sat him
yeah,
down and explained to him what it is that was wrong with what he did. Ask him to look into himself and tell us what he thought he could have done better. And when he was finishing talking, and we look, and the counselor went through with him, we realized that a lot of the issues that he faced was coming from childhood days. And
right,
even now, that gentleman always come back to us to say, we live in good, so, get them report, everything all right. And yes, we have had children who come to us to say, help our family, because if you don't help my mother and my father, one of them will die. We have had that. Children who came seeking help for their parents. And so that is why even though the court is important, and I'm not discounting the role of the court, but based on how the Domestic Violence Act is in its present form, it gives the police little or no leeway to work. Because it's only when a law has been broken or when there's a breach of the protection or occupation order or any order that is granted by the court that the police really have teeth to bite.
okay,
And that is why a lot of responsibility is laid at the feet of the victim to ensure that from the very beginning, you know what the signs are. You see
Yes.
them. You
Let us
don't
talk
take
a
them
little bit.
lightly.
Let us talk a little bit about that. When you are, whether from a relationship standpoint, or whether you are in a very volatile situation with another family member, how do you, whether not get involved or seek mediation, or find somebody who can be a go-between? I mean, mediation, legally, or just find someone in the family who, whether you look up to, both of you look up to, or whatever. But one, I want you to deal with first in terms of a relationship, how someone can identify a potential violent person. Well, not
All
necessarily
right.
violent, but an
Yeah.
abuser.
In
Because
domestic, intimate partner.
I know this well, what do you call it, phenomenon or illness of narcissists. We have narcissists in our society who don't who are even unaware of the damage that they are causing. I did a whole program on that. And I mean, what I've understood about narcissism is unreal, because what they're saying is that narcissists are not aware of the damage that they're causing to wife and the children. They even went as far as to say that when you are involved with a narcissist, you need counseling in order to survive. So, what are some of the things that we need to look out for, especially when selecting a partner, one, and two, when involved in whether it's a land dispute, what are some of the steps that we should take?
All right. So let me talk about the intimate partner violence first.
Right.
Many times we are in relationships and some simple things happen. So you and your partner sit down and you're having a conversation, and the partner will say to you, say, you see if you ever try leave me?
In
Or
jest. In
yes,
jest.
and you smile and you take it as a joke. And then you hear another one. Your phone ring and your partner picks up your phone and wants to know who you're talking to. And everywhere you go, your partner is there. You can't breathe, the partner is not there. Simple words, it begins with simple words. And so, and you have even the cyber stalking starting. So you are being tracked wherever you go. If you put on a little makeup on your face, so why you need to put on makeup? I don't like when you have on makeup and you're going out on the road and I'm not going with you. You're going out to dinner, which is one of the common ones, where you go out with a date or a partner to dinner, and you are not even allowed to choose your own food.
Right.
You know, so some of these things, some of the things that we think as being in love is really obsession, and
Because
can
we
be,
think it's attention. It looks like, oh, he's so
yes,
attentive in the very beginning, because that's what
yes.
it looks and feels like.
You have the instances where you're told by your partner, male or female, that your friend are my friend and my friend is your friend. So you don't have any friends outside of the people that you and that partner know. You
Right.
are cut off from family members and other friends that you'd have had before the relationship. And you see nothing wrong with it. So your whole life is centered around this partner. And so any day you step out of bounds, this is where the violence begins. And sometimes the violence don't start there now. You have the simple criticisms. Nothing you can do correctly.
Right.
So you take me up and I wasn't slim and I didn't have Coca-Cola bottle shape. And all of a sudden you want me to have Coca-Cola bottle shape and I'm putting on too much weight. And that's an issue. And we make excuses for the issues that partners may have. But say, oh, it's COVID, or in just losing job, or in just tired and stressed. And when I say him, I'm not talking about a male or a female. I'm talking about either one of them.
Right.
You know, So these are the things that we have, and we make excuses for it. I always use the example of a Coke bottle or a soda bottle filled with soda in there. Domestic violence starts with simple things: words, harsh words, stalking, serious
Checking your
criticism
phone.
that put you
Checking your
down.
phone. Checking
Yes,
your
ma'am.
phone.
You know business with my phone. You're not supposed to go in there unless I tell you you can go in there. So you're in my phone. The phone can't ring. You know everybody, and you have this other thing that is going around where persons are twinning their phone to their partner to know who is on their partner's phone and who is calling and who is talking. You have that going around, and people tend to take it very lightly and doesn't think anything is wrong with it. I
Right.
am at work and my partner show up unannounced for no reason at all. Or I'm at work and my partner come to work and take a seat there until I'm finished working. And you think that it's security, is your bodyguard or she's your bodyguard.
Yeah.
So when I make mention of a Coca-Cola bottle, that's where it starts. So when you shake the bottle, once you start to do these abuse, one of the things that we also forget is the
Yes.
financial abuse. We forget the financial abuse. So you tell your partner, say, don't work, I'll support you, and you control the purse, and you give just enough. You won't buy any food, or if you give $50 to buy the food, you know that the $50 can't buy the food, but you expect lobster and rice and chicken. That's an abuse. When, as we were discussing earlier, when women go out and have these men look after some children when they know not belong to the man,
Yes.
and manipulative in the process, that's an abuse. So it takes many forms, and it can branch
Right.
out into many things. It can branch out into many things. So when you shake the Coca-Cola bottle after compressing it for so long and pull the cover, everything that's in it come out. That's where the
Right.
violence starts, because people now become intolerant to all the things that are happening and start the violent part of it. And when the violence starts, after that, if you look at the Coke, after everything goes up in the air, it comes right back down and simmer. You see,
Right.
that simmering stage is the one that we call the honeymoon stage. That's when I apologize and tell you I'm sorry and it shouldn't happen, and I don't know why it happened, and I'm not going to make it happen again, and then give you a week or two after and it start all over again. That's how domestic violence happen. You know?
The the fear though of reporting is real
Yeah.
because, as you said, they control the purse, so you don't work. And so you're afraid that if you send him to jail or police come for him, your one breadwinner gone. And even if you do work, you mean persons who live with abusers, from my just very limited experience, they tend to control your friend pool.
Yeah.
So your friend pool is very limited. So how do you navigate that, Inspector? How do you navigate? Do you move on the first signs, or do you watch it? Do you tell a friend? Do you say it to your pastor? I don't. How do you avoid getting deep in it?
I believe that at the very first sign, you know your grandmother always talk about your sixth sense
Yes,
and tell you that when something wrong, the ear and the back of your head stand up.
yes,
You have to start using your sixth sense. So the very first sign, you're gonna say, "Oh, hold on a minute," and you're going to talk to somebody about. You may not necessarily want to talk to your partner then, but talk to your pastor, talk to somebody who both of you respect, and get both of you into a discussion to talk about the issue. because sometimes the perpetrator themselves don't see anything wrong with it, because
Right.
this is what I'm used to. So I never know it was wrong.
Absolutely.
So when you start having a discussion at an early stage and not wait until things get out of hand, you would have started to get help from the very beginning. And like I said before, you have abusers who are very, very manipulative. And so you don't
But
sit and wait. You don't
but
sit and wait.
one will say, um, people done business in a married people arguments, and what God has put together, nobody should really get involved. So you don't take tails out. All these different say you don't take tails out of streets. Your private life is private. All of these sayings that make a lot of us hesitate before, because sometimes it start by saying him miserably see, because
Yeah.
it just comes, or she miserably see, because it just comes in as if the person is miserable. But what about mental illness? Because mental illness can also be a part of this.
Yeah.
So how we narrow it down?
Is
How we manage?
it's a lot. It's a lot. And that is why when you're in intimate partner relationship, it is important that you're able to communicate and have discussion, open and frank discussions. One of the issues that we have not, persons getting involved in relationship have not really taken the time out to know the persons that they are with, because
Yes,
persons gravitate towards person maybe because they can provide for them. So the financial money is always a problem, and
right.
money is always an issue. And so you bypass all the other issues that may be there
Yes,
at the same time. And so when you should know when you're in a toxic relationship. The
right.
toxic relationship don't happen overnight. It happens over a period of time. So it's not a one-off thing. Abuse is not a one-off thing. It's a period, it's something that is happening over a period of time. And so if you're in that toxic relationship,
Yes,
you must now know at what stage do I start to plan my get out, because I'm going to seek help first. And that's why
right,
even for us as persons who intervene, we never tell persons to leave each other. That's your decision. When we go through the
right.
counseling period with you, you must now decide for yourself, am I going to work on this relationship, both of us together, or am I going to walk away? But you have to bear in mind that whatever decision that you make, it must be in the best interest of you first and foremost. It
Right.
can't be the other person, it has to be you. And that is why when you're talking about domestic violence intervention, it has to be intervention for both the victim and the abuser. It cannot be one or the other. And what we found sometimes that the abuser say, look here, I'm not interested in that. I have no
Yes,
interest in them. And so we have to figure out a way to sit them down. Sometimes we do what we call man talk.
yes,
Because my center manager, one of my center manager is a male. And so when I get them like that, I say to my center manager, listen, you need to talk to this male. And so we hold a reasoning. Before we
right.
even go into counseling, we hold a reasoning because we have to have a background as to exactly what is happening within that situation so that we can make the proper referrals. And we
Yes,
don't do the counseling. I should tell you, the JCF don't do the counseling unless it is for members of the JCF where we have a chaplaincy services branch. But
right,
outside of that, when we are talking about persons outside of the JCF, we refer them to professional counselors.
right.
And these are persons who have been trained in dealing with domestic violence situation. But as you said earlier, it is a tough call, but persons have to know when enough is enough for them.
Right.
And as I said before, it's not a one-off situation. And one of the things with domestic violence and the abusers is always about mind control.
Absolutely.
It destroys your self-esteem, and after a while, you
As
forget who you
Danica is
are.
saying here, as Danica is saying here, she says some of them are delusional individuals. They will make you believe that you are toxic or you are miserable when it's really they that are very toxic or miserable.
Yeah, man.
That is that
That's
is that
how
that, that,
abusers
that
are.
kind of manipulation as you were saying earlier.
That is how abusers are. And if you're not a strong person, you will start to believe that something is wrong with you. And after a while, you have lost yourself because you have
Right.
now become a version of the person who want to create a different you. And this
Yes.
is why now you must know, where do I stop? The problem is that a lot of persons do not know where to go for help. When the help is there, the first point of your contact where help is concerned, if you don't have a pastor, you have a justice of the peace, you have a responsible person within your community who you respect, that you should be able to go and sit down and talk to. Or you come at the police station, because we're not going to talk to you in front of people. We're going to take you
Right.
into a private room and we're going to sit you down and listen to what you have to say. And then say to you, okay, this is how we can help you. But at the same time, if you don't help us to help you, then the help is doesn't make any sense. And so we say to victims sometimes, come and give us a statement or sit down, let us refer you through counseling. And they say, no, all I want to do is move out. And 2 weeks down the road, the same victim run back and say, I tried to move out and go to my parents' house, but the person find me. What do I do now?
Yeah, because Jamaica's small.
It
And
is,
if
and we have no,
they know everybody that you know, chances are they're going to find you.
we have victims that we have to hide. I mean, literally hide,
So
because
the police does that kind of intervention.
the police, if it is that is life and death and to prevent you from dying, then we will do the necessary that we need to do to protect you. That is the bottom line. We prefer to prevent than investigate. And if it is that we found ourselves in a situation where we can help you, as I said to you a lot of times, all right, so for example, we had a case some time ago, and the abuser almost killed the victim. We remove the victim out of the space and put the victim in a shelter. Take the victim's SIM card, change it, and give them a new one. And you know what the victim did?
Call the perpetrator.
Call the abuser and friends of the abuser and give them the number. So again, it goes back a lot of times also to changes in lifestyle. You know,
Right.
persons cannot easy. I know that change is hard, but then we have to make up our mind that when we are in violent relationships, we have to tell
Yes.
ourselves that we have to protect us. And so we
Right.
have to do whatever we can to protect us. Not saying that the court order will always protect us or the police will always protect you, but we are going to do everything in our power to protect you, but you'll have to help us to protect you.
Most women, well, I would say most women and men, because I mean, having spoke to some of the men, if they're in an abusive situation, because abuse don't necessarily mean beating, right? Most of them stay together for the children.
Ah,
What happens in to the children in an abusive situation? Just give us a little
um,
information on that.
most times when a child witness a mother or father being abused, you see, that child is also a victim of abuse. And let me tell you how. If the child is with, if a son, you know that boys always stick to their mothers.
Right.
And the boy witnesses his father beating his mother, he's gonna jump in to prevent. And oftentimes, he's going to get some good lick.
Yes.
If a girl witness her mother beating the father, she will intervene the same way, and chances are he may be abused the same way. In cases where we have families like that, we tend to do counseling of the parents and counseling with the children. So we have to take the children through a series of sessions with various counselors. Again, as I said, not the police, but
Right.
professional counselors who take them through a series of things. And what you'll find, after a while, they begin to open up to counselors to say, this is what is affecting me. This is how I see things. Some of them, even when they come to the center, will draw some things. I will ask them, how do you feel about this situation? Some of them don't speak. What they do is do some drawings to tell you what their feelings are. And we're not talking about babies, we're talking about teenagers who will do that,
Okay.
right? There's always a fear living inside of these children that because one of the parents is a victim, they are likely to become a victim too. I had a young man who told me that if he knew his father, he would have killed him.
Wow.
And it's not because he saw the father victimizing the mother, because the father would have left when he was pretty small. Well, I shouldn't say that. His father left when he was about 5 years old. But he witnessed the mother being beaten by the father, and that image remained with him, even as a teenager. And so, even in school, where you will find children acting up, and teachers will say they don't have no behavior and they don't have no home training, a lot of them are suffering from mental abuse. May not
Right.
necessarily be physical abuse, but mental abuse, because I have witnessed these things and it's affected me. And this is, I don't know how to deal with it because I was never given any form of counseling. And so
Right.
counseling is critical in these kind of relationships, especially in the family life. When we talk about family violence outside of that, say, for example, over property, we often mix mediation with counseling. You still have to do the counseling, it's important. But that is where now you mediate again, persons compromise then as it relates to those land disputes. If it is a matter that needs to go to the court, it goes to the court. But counseling still happens because at the end of the day, you're family members and you have to live together. How do you bypass, or how do you get over all of these issues that surrounding a little piece of dead left land, or two dumplings in a pot where persons are injured because of that?
But most times, Inspector, some of the persons are not even entitled to anything. What we in Jamaica would call is just bad mind and grudgeful. And you get, them never get. They thought they should have gotten and didn't get. And that happened uptown, midtown, and
Everywhere.
downtown. It no have no address, right? And so it's so difficult to to control, because it's not, most times there's no confrontation. It's just somebody sit down and just
Plan.
stewing over what them think they should have gotten,
Yes. Yes.
and just turn to murder.
And
But
that is why education is important, Sandra.
yes,
Education is critical. And having love in your heart. I always tell people that if you don't have any love in here, so you can't, if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. And so a lot of that around have to do with how we live with each other,
right.
our own mindset and our hearts. And we have to get to the heart of people to understand that there are some things that are just plain wrong.
We have a few. We have a few. Um, I think it's. Danica says, in most cases, the abuser speaks his or her version of the truth. And so to make you look like a bad person, what you then find is that the victim now feels cornered or scared into silence.
Perfect manipulation, Sandra. Perfect manipulation, that. Oftentimes, when the perpetrator is talking, the perpetrator is referring to what they believe is the truth. And once you object to that, you become the as Danica says, the bad person. And that is why I always say to victims from beginning, or to persons who I meet from beginning, you must know you. You must set the boundaries from the very beginning of what you will endure and what you cannot endure. You must decide within your own self, what am I willing to walk away from or what I'm willing to stay with?
Yes.
And so the pros and the cons are important. So you're in a relationship, you must know, am I able to deal with these issues or do I need to walk away? And when you make that decision to walk away, you have to make that decision to walk away. You can't be putting one foot out and one foot in.
Yes. This one we spoke about this earlier. This Paul is in New York, so he was saying that once you make a call in New York, if the husband, he will have to leave the home. Then an order of protection is issued.
And you know, Paul, I wish Jamaica laws were like that. Not well, I won't disenfranchise the men because but New York and some other countries have specific laws, and it is clearly laid out as to what is to happen in cases of domestic violence. There are also clear support groups within the national framework within other countries that Jamaica has yet to do. So we talk about domestic violence
So
at the
what do
national
we have?
level,
What do
but
we have currently? What do we
currently,
have currently? Yes. What do we
currently
have?
we have um one public shelter and one private shelter. Okay, that's all we have.
For the whole
There's
of Jamaica.
nothing whole of Jamaica. And the one that is a public one that is under the Ministry of Gender Affairs recently opened. I can't even tell you where it is. I don't know. All right.
Oh,
And I can't give out that information even if I
right,
know, because that is to protect the victim. But the fact of the matter
right.
is, the legislation around domestic violence, I know that they are doing something about it in Parliament that has not yet been completed. Until we put in the necessary framework from government and also within my organization, where there are clear directives in how we treat. There are directives, don't get me wrong, there are directives on how we treat with domestic violence issues. But we now need to have a framework right across at the national level where persons are held accountable for non-action. And it doesn't matter if it is the police. It can be any responsible persons that are identified under the act as being a responsible person. So you're a teacher and you know that a child is being abused and you shut your eye, you don't care. You must be held responsible. Jamaica on an although there is no legal obligation for the common man to speak or to intervene in domestic violence matter. It's more of a moral responsibility that
Right.
I see my neighbor in trouble and to prevent death, I'm going to ask the police to
We're afraid.
intervene.
We're afraid of backlash. We're afraid of house
Yes.
burn down. We're afraid of, even today, I was listening to the radio. I was listening to the Edge today, and there was a scenario where I can't remember the name of the host on the 5 o'clock program. And she was saying that someone called in to say that this lady had a helper. The helper's boyfriend threatened her, came to the house where she worked and threatened her. So the question to the public was, what should the owner do? Should she fire the helper or assist with the situation? A lot of people, well, the lady was saying that she didn't want to fire her helper because her helper was a good helper. But the truth is, the man came there, he told security that him going come back, and when him come back, him not come back by himself because the security told him that he cannot let him in. So you have those kind of scenarios as well. What do you do?
But the security have a legal obligation to report that to the police. The helper could have reported that to the police on her own, even though the employer may not necessarily want to, because that's domestic violence, you know. That is
Right.
domestic violence, right? So we have had, all right, we had a case last year where a helper was threatened by, similar story, her employer's boyfriend. And the employer boyfriend came to the house to actually beat her. And she came to the station and made a report. And when we sent for the boyfriend, he never decided to come. So we went to the home for him. Because a lot of people don't understand that domestic violence is not just about intimate partner, persons who are blood related. It's also persons who are dependent on the
Right.
abuser and who are abused by these persons. So a domestic helper who lives in qualifies for that easily.
Absolutely. So she's just to come straight to the police
She
and
can come
report.
to the police and make a report because the violation is against her. The security guard could have corroborated her statement with his statement that the person would have come. And I have said I'm not letting you in, this was what was happening. So another statement would have been given to support the helper statement. The employer could also have given a statement to support the helper statement. But I figured that the employer would not do that because of her boyfriend.
But no, it's an ex. It was an
Oh,
ex, you know, an
ex
ex-boyfriend. It
and
wasn't a
ex
friend. It was an ex.
and ex-boyfriend or ex-partners are also covered under the Domestic Violence Act. Persons who are dating are also covered. So me and you just meet and we go out on a date and you violate me and I think that I need to make a report to the police. Yes, it is covered under the Domestic Violence Act.
So would that report from the security guard would that have been enough to have him arrested, because it was he threatened her to come back and come back with somebody?
But the helper need to make that report as well. The threat was
Okay.
made against her and she heard. So she needs to make that report. The security guard also need to make that report to say, I heard, it was said in my presence.
Yes. Marcia says, do you have a hotline that a person can call?
702-5120, 702-5121.
Hold on. 702.
5120, 702-5121.
Okay.
And I can give you a cell number, but please, ladies and gentlemen, only for domestic violence matters.
Yes.
It is 220-2828.
220.
2828.
And this, okay. So, and to call the hotline, it's okay, when it's time to call this hotline, what should the scenario be? It's just a threat? You're afraid? You want to talk to somebody? What is the hotline for?
Any instance of domestic violence matter, once you call those three numbers, the 702-5120 is normally answered during the days. The 220-2828 is answered during the night because the office is closed. And
Okay.
so what we have persons, we have a lot of telephone calls, some persons just wanting to talk about what it is that they can do. We have persons calling from right across the island, asking us what it is that they can do and how we can direct them for help. And so we direct them to various places right across the island because we do not have shelters. We do not have intervention centers right across the island just yet. As it is, we only have 4. 2 in St. Thomas, 1 in St. Andrew, and 2 in St. Andrew. 1 is at Constant Spring, 1 is at Matilda's Corner, 1 is
And
at
what
Yallow's.
do these intervention centers do?
The intervention centers are where you call now. We are the persons who talk to you and direct you to where you can get the help. So for example, you call Sandra, about a domestic matter having to do with you, and you do not want to come in face to face, we
Yes.
speak to you on the phone and we make arrangement with a counselor to see you.
Suppose my boyfriend or my husband beat me. I run out of the house with the two pit in them. I'm sitting down in a shelf in a bus shed somewhere. I call you from my cell phone. Is if I call you, does the police pick me up? Is what happens?
If you run out of your home and you're in a bus shed because
Yes,
you have to run for your life, what we do, we find out where you are and we send a police for you. And you go to the station and you make your report. That is what will happen right there and then.
yes,
Bearing in mind, as I said before, we do not have shelters. And so sometimes when we take you to the station, honest to God, we don't have nowhere to put you. We have to find somebody now to say to you, can you keep this person? Or we say, do you have somewhere you can go and spend the night until tomorrow? Or the police will go and pick up that abuser once the report is made. But we are not going to send you back in the situation that you're running from. And that is one
so
of the major problems that we have in the Jamaica Constabulary Force, is because we don't have the shelters. We really, really don't have the shelters to put people. And so we have to be asking family members or friends who are out of the area to assist in keeping persons overnight until when daylight, if it happens in the night, till when morning come, when we can actually meet with one of our partners to say, can you assist? Like Women Inc. will say, all right, we only have room for two, right? Or we only have room for one. But it's not permanent. It's probably a day or two. And that's why I say earlier that people have to have their own
you have to
safety
have a
plan.
strat plan. You have to
You
have a
have to
strat
have a
plan.
safety plan, yes.
Yeah, because you have to have somewhere to go. Yeah. Why this is sad because there's nowhere to go. Nowhere in the whole of Jamaica. One place,
I
two
wish
places.
I wish Jamaica would have a shelter in every parish. Because let me tell you something. It was just last week, I was addressing a group of persons. And when I spoke to them about the figures for St. Catherine alone, people were like, you must be crazy. We're talking about,
What, tell us some of the figures, Inspector, so
all
that
right.
we're aware of
So
what's happening.
so for and I'm just gonna make reference to St. Catherine, St. Thomas, and part of St. Andrew. For 2020, our total number of reported cases of domestic violence and abuse is 4,424. Of that amount, 2,774 is in St. Catherine alone.
What?
For 2019, and that doubles the figure for 2019. And what we found in 2020 when we're looking at the figures and looking at maybe some of the contributing factors to the increase in the number of reported cases, yes, people are more aware and are coming to the police for help. That's one. But then persons are confined to their homes because of COVID. One time
Right.
before COVID and you're vexed, you go walk away sometimes and go belch it out with your friends. No,
And
you
go
have
to a
nowhere to
bar or
go.
go whatever.
No, you don't have anywhere to go. The other thing is we have a number of children who have been sexually abused at home. School was their safe haven. The fact that they're at home now,
Oh
you find
God.
more incidents happening because your grandmother ever tell you about rubbing butter in a puss mouth? It's right there. So a lot of children are running away from abusive parents. The fact that school is out, they have to remain in that confined space. Remember now, people still don't know how to deal with their situation and their differences. And so, because we are still having that challenge communicating, then the violence continue.
Oh,
And another thing that we miss, we often talk about domestic violence as if it's a second cousin to crime. It is not. We have a number of persons who died last year for St. Mary alone. There were 7 murders out of intimate partner violence. Notice I never say family, I talk about intimate partner violence alone. So in some parishes, you have a greater number of reported cases as it relates to homicide, as it relates to intimate partner violence, while in other parishes, it is more family violence, like for Trelawney. Most of the incidents there are family violence, not necessarily intimate partner violence. For St. Mary, it's more intimate partner violence. The same thing for St. Anne.
wow. This is like you almost feel helpless
Yeah,
because
we feel that way sometimes.
if you don't have anywhere to go, the chances of you reporting it are next to none.
But we are still encouraging you to report it, because when you report it and we are able to help, not just you the victim, but we are helping the abuser also, because sometimes when we intervene and we talk to the abuser, you find that person become penitent and things change. But it's not an overnight thing. It takes a
Right.
whole lot of sessions in most instances, and people have to be willing and want that kind of intervention, because sometimes we have persons saying, no, 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 I don't want that. I just want to go my separate ways. But when you're saying that, we try to say to you, if you choose to go your separate way, this is what you need to do to protect yourself.
Right.
And this is where our safety plan come in. And we talk to you and walk you through what it is that you need to do.
What is it that we as citizens can do, Inspector? How can we help the process? How can we help along the process? Is there anything
Intervene.
that we can do as citizens of Jamaica to put to break the back of this beast?
Educate one at a time. Educate persons one at a time. Tell people what it is that they can do. Tell people where they can go for help. Be frank and open and honest. So when you go into your community and you're speaking to men, you say to men, look here, domestic violence is about this. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should not be doing. And you start to educate persons one at a time. And you find that over a period of time, you'd have educated the whole community. It's not about taking a big chunk. It's about taking baby steps, and people know and have confidence in the police and in the system that when they come to us as police officers, they're going to get the required help. But in coming to us as police officers, we have to be fair and honest to them that they understand our limitations as well, and they understand what it is that they must do.
Absolutely. Okay. Donovan Goldburn says JCF has come a far way. As a former member, I see a lot of improvements. This domestic violence topic is very informative. JCF still have a way to go, but progress is in sight. I remember doing station guard duty, and many nights women who get abused sit many nights on the bench.
Again, because the Jamaica Constabulary Force doesn't have any center for women. Again, that is a responsibility of government, and government must see the need to ensure that these centers are available to persons. And that is the bottom line. And that is why for us, our intervention begin at an early stage through education. Because if we can educate, knowing the limitations, if we can educate at an early stage, and if persons are comfortable, or we allow persons to be comfortable enough to come to us and talk about these issues, and we can guide them through a process of counseling, we can guide them through a process of of using a church, because our church are also our partners. You understand? So we'll have issues where we ask our church, please intervene. I see how best you can assist this family. It is not a long it's not a long thing, but at least for a night or two, a church member will come in and say, all right, I have an extra room. Let the person come. Let us see how best we can help. And so it's going to take a holistic approach, not just the JCF, but everybody with hand on deck, understanding the intricacies and what can happen in cases of domestic violence and abuse, and how it affects communities, not just families, because
Right.
domestic violence have gang born out of it.
Right, because I mean the youngsters going to look for somebody who's like a father figure of some kind because they're looking for love.
Just the
If
other
you get
day,
the
there was a
love at home,
report.
you go outside and find it.
Just the other day, there was a report in Clarendon where a house was firebombed, and it started out of a domestic violence issue among family members that spread into gang violence. And so we can't separate some things. We can't separate, and we can't cover up domestic violence and forget about it, because in the long run, it's gonna come up in another form. So we have to address it as a nation from the beginning, everybody being a
All
part of the
hands on deck.
process.
All hands
Yes.
on deck. But I even see also where the gangs are taking, I don't want to call it a new approach, but definitely they are taking an approach that if them can't catch Quack, them catch him shot. So if
Yeah.
them can't find you, them is going to find some family member, because that's what has been happening the last couple of months. I've been seeing that in the news. So really and truly, we all have to be aware of where we go, who we hang out with, family member or not, right? And be responsible. Like I said, we are responsible for our own safety. So,
We
I
have
mean, there is so much violence that's happening now. And as you said, because persons are now forced to stay home, education is key, but educating at this point, especially adults, going to be difficult.
start with the children. Start with
So
the
you have to
children
start
about
with
the
children.
relationships that they form. Because just over the weekend, I had a group of police youth club members, and we talked openly and honestly about their own relationships that they form, what it is that they are looking for, and what are some of the signs that they will see in those relationships that are clear signs of the possibility of domestic violence or abuse happening at a later stage. And so we have to start in the home. You can't start outside. The conversation begins within the home.
Let me ask you something, because this is not something that we talk about either. If a child is being abused in the home by whether a stepfather or the father, the mother may know or may not know. If the mother knows, what is the legal ramification to that mother?
The mother can be charged by the police. So if the mother is aware, all right. So for example, I like when you ask the question, because it's a real life case that we have where a mother knows that her daughter is being sexually molested by her spouse, not the child's father, by her spouse, and the child couldn't take it anymore. Go to the mother, and the mother is telling her that is lie she telling. And what
Right.
she did was she went to the police and she made a report. And when she make a report and the police visit the home, the mother took the child, give her $5,000 and tell her to come then go town, go shop.
What?
Yes, man. We have a lot of cases like that. And so the police can arrest and charge the mother. right? That's a form of child endangerment, you know.
And this is
And
her flesh and blood.
so yes, you can, especially if a child, remember now, the person have to be under the age of 16 when you come on to sexual abuse, right?
Well, that's good information.
Because
So not
they
because
can't
the
give
child is
consent.
under 18, child has
But
to be
in
under
case
16.
where, yeah, because they can't give consent, a child under 16 can't give consent to have sex. So 16 years old, but they're still a child up to age 18,
Right.
right? But the Child Care and Protection Act speaks to a number of offenses under that, where parents are held responsible for the children. So if you as a parent know that your child is being molested and you do nothing about it, it's not about removing the child from the household or arresting the perpetrator. It's also taking you to court.
This road look like a long road, Inspector.
It is.
Like a
You see,
very long road.
it is a long road. And remember that, like in some part in years ago, you had cases of incest where grandparents have in relationship with them grandkids, and people used to just sweep it out. It's just like domestic violence. No, domestic violence is not new, you know. It's just I know people are talking about. It's not new, you know.
And more is being reported.
And, more is being reported. People are talking about it. Social media too has helped the process in a way. But what has happened is that we now have to educate our family members and community about what is right and wrong, what is legally right, what is legally wrong. Because some parents don't see nothing wrong with it. Some mothers don't see anything wrong with their children or their young girls being turned out to old men as long as they can bring in the money.
Yeah.
And I could spend the whole night giving you
Just
stories
on
of
that alone.
experiences that we have around that, you know. But it is for us as police officers and community members to hold persons accountable for certain acts that are in violation of the laws. And we have to do that.
So, all right. So in wrapping up, my takeaways from what you have said. Number one, look for early signs and report it. If it's not even to the police first, say it to somebody.
Yes.
Say it to somebody, so at least you have another pair of eyes. You can there's a go-to person. Plan if you realize that you're in this situation. Have an exit strategy.
Yes.
So you have somewhere to go. You have someone you have informed of your situation, and you report it to the police. You can also, at what point do you ask for a restraining order? The first time the person threatened your life,
The minute you find that, the minute you feel like your life is in danger, and if you don't get help, you may lose it. When you give your statement, you must state in it that I'm in fear of my life. The police is going to direct you to the court. You go to the court and seek that protection order, because you'll have to satisfy the court, you know, that whatever situation you're in.
He didn't hit
Pardon?
me. He or she didn't hit me or stab me or
Even if he
whatever.
never hit you or stab you, but the actions of the abuser puts you in fear of your life. It can be words that are said, it can be things that are happening, not necessarily physical abuse, but you know that if you do not get a protection order, then the physical abuse is going to come. And so when you go to the court, the court is gonna ask you a number of questions to satisfy themselves, or based on the statement that you have given to the police, say yes, this matter warrants a protection order, otherwise this person is gonna die.
How easy is it to get a protection order?
It's not
Is there a
hard.
long line? Is there a
No.
long line? Does it take days, weeks, months?
I'm not going to tell that it takes days, weeks, or months. It depends on the nature of the situation. There are some situations where a protection order has to be issued, what we call ex parte, because if the abuser knows that the victim goes to the court, the life of that person is in greater danger. And so it is the police that the court will issue an order behind the back of of the abuser. Many times, remember now that the protection order is only temporary. It's not a permanent restraining order. It's a temporary order. And so it may be for 6 months until the matter is heard before the court. Because at some point, the court is going to want to hear from both of you as to whether or not the protection order should remain in force or it can be lifted. And a lot of times, that is depending on what the victim goes to court and say. The issue is a lot of people don't want to go to court. A lot of people can't be
Right.
bothered with court. But the court is there to protect us, and the court is there for us to use, and we have to do that. We have to be bothered if we are going to save our lives.
So, all right, if you have kids and the kids are caught in the middle, I have a restraining order against you. Where does that leave the children?
The family court now decides on visitation rights. Because you can during that decide on visitation rights. So the court may, in their discussion with you and the abuser, decide, all right, so I don't have a problem with him seeing my kids, but I do not want to be the one that take the kids to see him. Or I
Yes,
want a third party there. You
yes,
understand?
yes.
So that's how it is. That is how it is when it comes on to court. But it's a family court that deals with that aspect as it relates to children and their safety and what should happen if both parties cannot see eye to eye. What should happen in that case as it relates to the kids? We have had instances where the kids are removed from both and given to, say, a grandparent who is the mediator in the middle, and both
Right.
parents are allowed to see the kids through the grandparent. You understand? So it is
Yes.
a court that decide that aspect, not the police.
Okay. Abba says, what is the root cure to this disgrace? I think that it is mostly financial reasons why this is being tolerated. I suppose she means the abuse, why the abuse is being tolerated.
A number of victims stay with abusers. Again, as I said, love, fear, and hope. I'm coming out of a situation where I'm coming out of one room. I can now drive a Benz and I live in a mansion. I don't want to go back right there. So my financial situation is going to be worse off if I move out. There are others who are not working and solely dependent on the abuser. And so the abuser controls the purse.
Right.
And again, it goes with your level of independence and what you should be doing. Right? Yes, Ava, a lot of persons stay in relationships because of financial issues.
Should that also be a red flag when a man is insistent on you not working?
But of course, why would you want to sit down with a man or a woman
Well, he
who
can say
because
that he wants a stay-at-home mom so that he can go and work and be all that he can be. And so he doesn't have to worry about daycare, and he doesn't have to worry about all those other things. That sounds feasible.
all
And
right,
many women don't want to work. So that sounds like a very attractive package.
all right. So if you find that is attractive until when the leaks start to come and you're being manipulated, we have the reverse now, where a lot of women who are going out there professional and telling their spouse to stay home and take care of the kids. And they control what happened in the household. Again, remember I said power and control, power and control over another person. And so there are various ways in which to do it. If it works for you and there's no power and control, fine. I
Right.
know of women who their spouse say to them, I do not want you to work. I want you to stay home and look after the children. But I know of an individual who say, look here, if I'm going to stay home and look after the children, I have a master's degree, you'll have to pay me this amount of money a month time, different from what you
Right.
put down within the household. So
Right.
again, if you're comfortable doing whatever you're doing, but just recognize the signs when they become, remember, it's not one off, the signs that indicate that this is not right.
Yes. All right. So let's give us 5 takeaways or five don'ts. I would say 5 don'ts in a relationship setting as we wrap up. 5 don'ts, like red flags. 5 red flags, just 5 because there are many. But five
Oh,
of the
Jesus.
main red flags. 5 of the main red flags when entering a relationship, don't go in it.
Controlling obsession. That's one or two. That's two. You're
Yes,
controlling and your obsession.
yes.
When you are criticized for no reason at all. So
And
everything that you do become
nothing you
abundant.
do
There's
is good enough.
nothing. Nothing you do is good enough. When you are prevented from socializing with family members and friends, that's a big, big red flag.
Huge.
So another one that often slip us is the one that say you can't leave me, You can't leave me. Where you have a my own. You see that sitting there where you have a for me own and nobody else now go get it. And oftentimes
Ownership.
we take it as a joke, possession, and my property that. And anytime you're in a relationship and is seen by your spouse as an investment, run. If you are seen as an investment in a relationship, run. You are not an investment in a relationship, man or woman. Two big adults going into a relationship, mutual understanding, mutual consent, not an investment. And very often we hear people, I invest so much in this relationship. Not an investment. It's not a bank.
Oh gosh. So let us just repeat the hotline. And this is if you feel threatened, if you want to talk to somebody about something that happened, even if you want to say, okay, suppose you're not sure. He did something and it just never feel right. Is that something I can call and say, boy, so and so
Anything,
went down, as long as you feel threatened.
anything as it relates to domestic violence that you are not certain of and you want guidance on it, call us. Don't call us about food, people, because we have had that. We have given out the number and people are calling us on how they can get food. That is not our role. Our role is to talk to people about domestic violence, how they can get help, and what they
And
should
this
be
is
doing.
man, woman, boy, girl. This is not just
Anybody.
woman alone.
No, 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 no. Remember, we are not gender biased, and so we are not gender specific, and so domestic violence affects everybody. 702-5120.
And
702-121.
702-5121, and that's for in the days. And for
Yes,
the nights, it's 220-2828.
2828.
And I'll post those on my page after the program. And you said something about intervention as well. You had said something about intervention.
I'm saying that the domestic violence intervention centers, there are 4 of them. They are all
Yes?
located on compounds of police station for safety and security. Because we know we have some mad abusers, who will run you down anywhere and try to kill you. So we put it for your safety on the compounds of police stations.
And this is where? What is
We
in?
have one at Constant Spring, one at Matilda's Corner, and 2 in St. Thomas, one at Yalas and one at Morant Bay.
Yalas.
And Morant Bay.
And this is Constant Spring Police Station. This is Matilda's Corner Police Station. Matilda's Corner. And Yalas Police Station and Morant Bay Police Station.
Right. The centers are located on those compounds.
Interventions. And you said the intervention centers, is it somewhere like somewhere you can run to just for a brief moment. It's not somewhere to
talk
stay.
to you. It's not nowhere to stay. The
Right.
centers are there to talk to you to intervene immediately and to put you onto counseling or shelter if that is appropriate, if we have that.
Yes. Danica says a lot of women or men feels as though they can change a person or hope to change a person. If I stay, then he will do better.
Remember, love, fear, and hope. Love, fear, and hope. The three dynamics of domestic violence: love, fear, and hope. I love him or her. I am fearful that I have nowhere to go if I leave him or her. I can't manage on my own. I don't want to start over. Those are the fear. If I leave, he's gonna kill me. If I leave, I'm not gonna be able to see my children. And the hope is it will always get better because this is not how the person was before. That's the hope.
Wow, Inspector, you have given us a lot. Inspector Dillon, thanks, boy. You have given us a lot to think on. And you have really put focus on how difficult it must be. Because some of us tend to be judgmental, you know. I say, but why she not left?
Yes.
Why she not just take up our things and left? You know, because we are not in it. We don't know. We are not feeling it. We are not going through it. And fear is really crippling. And when we see how many people are being killed now in society by their spouses or by their family members, over, as you say, it can be too dumpling, just food.
Yes. And the
I mean,
police is
one is
duty bound to
probably
help.
what you said.
The police is duty and legally bound to respond to any report that is made at a police station. Anyone, even if you don't visit the police station and you call, the police is legally and duty bound to respond to you. So the help is there. Reach out to us. We will help as best as we can.
With although you get basket for carry water because there's no real home to carry. So for those wealthy out there who would like to donate, contribute, I would say this is something that they could look into and I'm talking about like Rotary clubs, and all the various other clubs that are always looking for projects to do.
Can I say this? Because
yes.
I sat here and I said to myself, I should actually mention that. The
yes.
Rotary Club of Manor Park has been one, apart from the US Embassy and UNDP, as one of our biggest supporter and sponsor as it relates to domestic violence intervention. And I want to use this opportunity, if you allow me, to big up the Rotary Club of Manor Park and hope that other persons will come on board.
That's awesome. So you have outside help, but you need some more help from the government.
Yes, man. We need some more help from concerned Jamaicans, and we need a lot more as it relates to legislation and what it is that the government needs to do to ensure that we have enough facilities across the island to help battered victims.
Right. And we said, notice people, we said victims. We never said women because it covers males, it covers man, boy, woman, girl, and babies. It covers the whole gamut of the human race, right? So it's not unique to any one sector of people. Abuse is abuse. Any which way you take it, abuse is abuse. Inspector Dillon, I am deeply grateful and know your hands are full. And boy, as a people, we really need to look out for each other. We need to do more reporting when we can. We need to be our brother's keeper. I know it's hard, people. I know we're afraid, but it is our duty to save a life. It is best for us to help to save a life, because many persons have seen violence day in, day out. Abuse of children, I think maybe is the most reported one, because it seems the least threatening. So I think you'll probably have the reporting of when children are being abused, because people don't like to get involved, I just said, in big people argument. And when you do it, sometimes the woman or the man don't even step up for themselves. So you feel like an idiot. You feel like you have exposed yourself because you are trying to help. And so these are some of the issues that we are having. So Ava says, very good program, ladies. So big up yourself.
Thank you.
So true. We have not walked in their shoes. That is so true. And we're talking about Jamaica, because what happening now is that a lot of people figure that Jamaicans are so indisciplined, and plenty of times people think that them cause it upon themselves. We don't know in the full story.
Yeah.
There go I, but by the grace of God, we don't know. So instead of sitting down and being judgmental, help. Be aware, be alert, help yourself, because as I was telling you earlier in our pre-conversation, I had dated this person, and I'm ordering my drinks and he's insisting that he orders for me, and I was like, somehow this doesn't feel right. I'm ordering my food and he's saying, no man, try this. And I'm saying, but this is what I want. And he's saying, no, and he's being very persistent, and my antennas went up. And so you have to be very alert and aware, because what I say, when fish go down and sea bottom and tell us a shark, don't ever believe them, because the signs are there.
Yes.
Signs are there. If it happened one time, it happened 2 times, it happened 3 times, the next time it might be your life.
Mm-hmm.
As well, I heard it from Oprah, but it was really what's her name again? Oprah's idol, man. Oh gosh, her name's slipping me right now. She said that when people show you, Maya Angelou, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yes.
Not the second time, not the third time, not the fourth time, the first time. Look at how they behave. Not what they're saying, because their lips can be moving, but how they are behaving. And if you feel any, as you said, we were born with the sixth sense, that gift of belly, that's a fear, and the hairs on the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah,
as you
man.
said, run.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait until something physically happens. And I just want to thank you for all your tips. I am going to post the numbers. I want to thank my viewers for joining. I really appreciate the support, because these are not sexy topics. So people tend not to want to discuss it. And we are not a SUS program. So we are not expected to go viral. We are here to educate. We are here to help. We are here for a better Jamaica. We are here for, in the name of love, right? Love of each other. So I just want to thank you again. Your daughter said earlier, and I'm not going to leave her out. She said, you didn't say, and you were a great mom too. That should have also been in your bio. So I just want to big you up for that as well, because parenting is really where it's at. It starts with the parenting. It starts in the home, where we learn to take care of each other. And that's where it starts. We don't want it to have to go to school when one teacher have how much 100 students to take care of, and poor thing, he or she can't manage. So we have to make sure that we take care of it in the home. As mothers, as fathers, we have to be vigilant about our own selves and our children. So once again, good night. Thanks for joining. Like, share. Remember, it's posted on the page and it's also posted on YouTube, www.youtube.com/The Totally Male. And you'll see a whole other set of programs with all kinds of information. Next week, join us again with the police again. I'm not sure who I'm going to be speaking to yet, but Dennis promised me that at that time we're going to be talking about now crime in general and what we can do to manage better, do better, stay away from it, help the police, something, because really and truly it's about a better Jamaica. So thank you again. Good night. Good night, one and all. Thanks, thanks, thanks. Bless you.
Thank you again for having me.
You are very welcome. And I really appreciate the time because I know you're busy. I know. And you have your family. So thank you so much for helping us and giving us the information. Really appreciate it.
Not a problem. All right.
Good night.